stuff.
How's everyone doing?
Good.
Doing all right?
Yeah, we're good. We are having a great weekend.
Good. You guys are about to feel a lot better after this, and I imagine we're a little hungover, right?
Yes.
A little too much champagne last night.
Yeah.
Too much vodka.
Killer. So who here has done breathwork before?
Little bit.
Yep. So
Teeny bit.
a couple of you guys. All right. So who here has heard of Wim Hof Method? Yeah, some of you guys. Who here has heard of breathwork in general? So I guess we have some people. No idea. Okay, so you guys are about to have your minds blown then. So breathing is the most important thing we do in our lives. Yet how often do we actually think about it? Never, right? Why?
It's just natural.
It just happens.
Yeah.
It happens, automatically, right? We don't have to think about it. But if we think about it, we could influence it, right? We could control it. We could go, hey, I don't want to breathe right now. Hold your breath. But after a while, like your nervous system will start freaking out and saying, hey, you got to breathe right now because we need oxygen, right? So then you could go the other way with it, and you could breathe really, really fast, and you could stress yourself out, right? Have you ever seen someone who's having a panic attack, or what's it called, or they're seizing? They're breathing really fast. That's your nervous system is really stressed out, and that's a response from the nervous system to breathing really fast. So, who here has meditated before? Yes, most of us. So, what happens when you're trying to meditate? Like, what is meditation?
Mind, body.
Yep.
You're watching your breath go in and out, releasing from your thoughts.
Sure. Yeah. Yep.
You're being present for the first time.
Yeah, exactly. I think those are all good answers. I think my definition of what meditation is whenever you're fully in the present moment, you're radically present. That could be a number of different ways. It could be what you might have tried before, sitting here in lotus pose or shavasana and just closing your eyes, focusing on your breath, noticing an airplane go by, but bringing full awareness to whatever it might be in that moment. A lot of times, I've heard some wise people say, if you can hear the birds, you're present. You're in a meditative state. So how often do you actually just notice the birds? Notice the different kinds of birds. So if we're quiet right now.
They're gone. No, they're
If you're quiet right now,
we have three over there.
Listen to how many different bird sounds you can hear in say 30 seconds. Right as I said, they're quiet.
I hear.
There's probably like 4 or 5 different birds around here making noises, and we just tune it out because noticing that doesn't do us any good for survival purposes in day-to-day life, right? But noticing like those little different intricacies and beauties of this world makes you more present and more essentially happy in life. So being happy isn't necessarily it's not necessary for survival. So we meditate to essentially kind of get away from our minds. Whose mind drives me crazy sometimes? Everyone, right? Like, yeah, that's me for sure. Especially when you're a little anxious, you're going through some stress in your life. You don't know what's gonna happen. You're kind of things are outside of your control. Like we like to control everything, right? When things are outside of our control, it makes us feel uneasy. But who's heard of Stoicism? Stoicism, the ancient Greek philosophy of Stoicism. Like Plato, Aristotle, all these guys, Seneca, they have this kind of belief system where there's a couple different principles, but one of the principles was if it's within your control, that's okay, that's good. You can control it, don't stress about it. If it's outside of your control, you can't control it, don't stress about it. So that equation, run that through your head whenever you're feeling anxious about something. Inside my control, outside my control. Outside my control, surrender. Can't do anything about it, stop stressing. Okay? Back to meditation. We meditate to get away from our mind. Our mind is our ego. It's making sense of the world around us to give us a better shot at essentially survival. So the world that we live in, live in a nice house with beautiful view and drive our cars and take hot showers, and our lives are constantly based around comfort. Comfort is essentially safety, but 1,000 years ago, it was a whole different story. Survival is like the most important thing. Now it's like you don't have to leave your couch and you can have a career, go to the bathroom, you can just never leave the couch. If you want, you can order food to your house if you really wanted to. That's the first time we really had that luxury in history. So the mind now creates problems for yourself. It sees like an argument or like a stressful job, and it gives you the same kind of feelings and reactions as if you saw like a tiger in the wild. Maybe not to the same degree, but you're getting adrenaline and cortisol responses similar to that, because we're not used to like these little stresses in our lives. They're really simple, but they're amplified to make you feel like they're bigger than that, essentially. So majority of the activities that we do in our lives are based around getting away from the mind. We're basically becoming present. So who has a hobby, like horseback riding, maybe shooting archery, going mountain bike riding, like who likes to do that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
We all do, right? Some of our favorite shit that we like to do, working out, is basically making ourselves present. It's a meditation in and of itself, even if you are unaware of it. And typically those practices are coordinated with some sort of breathing technique or breathing pattern. Like when you're doing yoga, you're moving through all the positions with your breath. So you're getting tuned in with your breath, and you come out of class and you feel really like reset. You feel really calm and present, right? We've all felt this before, right? Who's heard of like a runner's high before? So who's felt that? Feels good, right? So that's breath work. Literally just pump your system full. You pump your system full of oxygen and feel good neurochemistry like dopamine and serotonin and endorphins, and so you feel really, really good. But when you're in that moment, you're just focused on running. You're not thinking about anything else, and all the blood and flow and oxygen goes from your brain to the working muscles. So the areas of your brain that basically your mind lives in, it's called your default mode network. These areas of the brain are now shut down. So when you're doing critical thinking, like crunching numbers for school or career or whatever it might be, this area of the brain is taking more oxygen and blood flow, just as if you're flexing your biceps when you're doing a bicep curl. Same thing. Your oxygen blood flow is going to your biceps, you're asking them to work. Where you're doing squats, it's going to your butt and to your legs, right? Same thing with this area of the brain. So then, when you're having stress and anxiety, the same area of the brain's taking up oxygen and blood flow, because it doesn't know the difference. If we live such stimulated lives, we go from one stimulation to the next, and we never give ourselves a break. And our breathing replicates that, because it's controlled by what's called the autonomic nervous system. This controls our breath and all the automatic functions in the human body. So, when someone cuts you off on the highway, and you hold your breath, or you start over breathing, right? Someone cuts you off, you're like, it's a panic response, right? Or someone said that they don't breathe very much at all. They just, I think you said you just hold your breath, right? And then sometimes you might take a big gasping breath in. You kind of forget to breathe. You get out of rhythm. So this is, your nervous system is a replication of the environment around you. We're outside hanging out like this. It's very leisurely. It's very calm, relaxing, hanging out at the beach. Your heart rate's gonna drop. Your breathing's gonna reduce. So on, so on. All the 100 different functions of autonomic nervous system in the human body, such as blood pressure and heart rate, pupil dilation, will all correlate. But then something gets thrown into the mix. You respond to that. The problem is that we live such stimulating and stressful lives that we live too much of our nervous system on what's called the fight or flight side. We've all heard of fight or flight before, right? So there's fight or flight on one side of the extreme of the nervous system, and there's rest and digest on the other side of the extreme of the nervous system. And all day long we float back and forth. If we're about to eat our favorite food, say you guys have bagels and cream cheese over there, you're about to eat your favorite food, and it's delicious. You're about to get some pleasure, right? Your mouth starts to salivate. Your pupils will dilate, and you're about to have pleasure coming to your life. So then you'll go to the side, the rest and digest side of the nervous system. But then when you say see like a wild animal, like your heart starts racing, you get really scared, your mouth gets dry. Or public speaking, we've all done public speaking before, right? Where does the saliva go in your mouth? It's like it disappears, right? It's like you got cotton mouth and you're like, you know, what happened here, right? Because that's our modern version of seeing like the bear in the wild, essentially. So, and you're over there, you're not ready to eat food. You're not hungry at all. Who's hungry when they're stressed? Never. You know, you're really never hungry when you're stressed. That's why people usually lose weight when they go through stressful periods of their life. Bless you.
Thanks.
So when you're over here, your breathing's gonna increase, and you're gonna breathe much more rapidly.
Did I just sneeze on?
So the average American takes 22 breaths per minute. How many breaths do you think we should take per minute?
Double, triple.
40?
No, it's less.
Or less.
30.
30? 30?
10.
10. Close.
10.
6. So the average American
Is it 6?
yeah. So the average American is breathing 3 times more than what we should be breathing per minute. So what's that telling the nervous system?
We're stressed out.
Exactly. So once one button gets pushed, all the other buttons get pushed as well. So we can't control the autonomic nervous system. It's just automatic, right? It just happens automatically. The only thing that we can control is your breathing. So that's our gateway into everything else. So when you push the breath button, you could speed up the nervous system, and make yourself more and more stimulated, or you can slow it down and make yourself more and more relaxed. So before bed, would you want to breathe more or less? Less, right? Maybe in the morning time, if you want to charge up a little bit, you want to breathe a little bit more, right? And incorporate some breath holds, which I'll talk about here in a second. But you get to decide what area of the nervous system that you want to reside in now. So now you have control. So then from there, that gives you control of the mind, because the mind's gonna go where the body is, and vice versa. So if you're constantly just at whim of your day-to-day life and not in much control, you're going to reside more on this side of the nervous system. The majority of people do, and that's why anxiety and depression is the #1 cause of disability in the whole entire world now. Think about that. It's insane, right? We're more advanced and we're more civilized than we've ever been, but we're more anxious and depressed than we've ever been. It's pretty ass backwards if you ask me, right? And a lot of that is because we feel like we're not in control, and we really are in control. So as soon as you slow down your breath and you take a conscious, focused breath, it fast forwards you from the past and rewinds you from the future into the present moment. Right? As soon as you take a conscious breath, that's where your thought comes. You mentioned like meditation is focused on the breath coming in and out. The first thing the majority of people learn to do when they meditate is to focus on the breath, right? That's your one grounding force to the present moment. And the present moment is the only place that we can be happy in this world. You can't experience happiness that's already happened. You can't experience happiness that hasn't happened yet. It's only here. So you guys are hanging out as a family and as a tribe, hanging out here together. Soak it in, be present, get off your phones and hang out with each other and really be tuned in with each other. It's the beauty of it all, right? Because you can look back and remember this, but you can't experience a happiness again. It's only here. It's fleeting. It's ever fleeting. Pretty wild, right? When you think about it like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we're breathing, say 22 times per minute, not only are we overstressing ourselves out, but we're fucking with our oxygenation of our cells now. So every time you take a every time you take a breath in, it comes down your trachea, down into your bronchi, and into the alveoli, these bushels at the bottom of your lungs, oxygen sacs essentially. It's just basically an upside down tree. So imagine this tree over here, flipped upside down to get your throat, your trachea, the branches are the bronchi, and the bushels are the alveoli. And then surrounding the alveoli are capillaries, so little like blood vessels. And this is where the diffusion happens from the air into your bloodstream. Your heart pumps around oxygen all around your body, attached to what's called hemoglobin, your oxygen binding protein in your blood. So this doesn't mean you're oxygenated though in your cells. This just means your blood. So if you have one of those O2 odometers, if you ever go to the hospital and you put one of those little odometers on, typically 97% saturation is good. So people who have COVID, a good way to tell if like you've got COVID or you should probably be hospitalized is if their saturation would go down to like 90%. But they can easily just do that. It's a breathwork practice like we're about to do right now, and increase that up. It's within your control. You can control your breath. But this is like a basic kind of science that we're not taught, in schools and whatnot. So the way oxygen diffuses into our cells and actually alkalines our cells. We've all heard the word alkaline, right? It's a pretty word. We all like this. Companies like to sell us products that are marketed or advertised as alkaline, right? So it's important to alkaline our cells. It means the measure of oxygen in the substance, alkaline. So, and then anything 7.0 and up on the pH scale is alkaline. Anything below is acidic. Our bodies are made up of 90% water, so we probably want to be alkaline, right, in our cells. We don't want to be acidic. But if we're breathing breathing like 22 times per minute on average, our cells are going to remain acidic because a measure of CO2 in our body is now reduced. We're breathing too much of it out. We're not keeping enough of it in. And this is important because this dilates our blood vessels. So think about your blood vessels. There's enough blood vessels in your body to wrap around the earth 3 times. It's crazy, right? If you lined it all up in a line 3 times, and those blood vessels have a muscular sheath around it. So when you have a lot of CO2 in your system, it dilates. Blood pumps faster. So we all work out to some degree, right? We all start to sweat. Blood's moving faster around your body, trying to get oxygen to the cells faster, and then the body heats up and we start to sweat. So this is the reason that they start to dilate, is we're burning more and more oxygen up for fuel as we're working out. So the byproduct of that is CO2, and then it dilates so oxygen can oxygenate the cells faster and faster and faster. So now if we're not working out, we're not actually burning this oxygen up, but we're still breathing as if we're sort of working out, like 22 times per minute. Now we're just blowing out the CO2, and it's actually constricting our blood vessels, making the oxygen harder to circulate the body and oxygenate the cells. So the problem we have here is that the oxygen stays in the blood and doesn't release into the cells from here. So our cells actually remain acidic. So this is a problem because acidity, when this happens, when it becomes chronic, when we're chronically acidic in the cells, this leads to chronic inflammation, and this is the root cause of all evil in the body. So cancer, autoimmune disorders, it all stems from chronic inflammation in the body, and you can control all that with just breathing alone. It's crazy, right? So just simply learning how to breathe, and you don't have to do like the Wim Hof Method or any kind of breathwork technique. It's just breathing properly, learning how to breathe properly throughout the day.
I'm ready. Yeah. How do we do it?
We're getting into it, man.
There you go.
Yeah. We're getting into it. So, so the perfect breathing is, like I said, 6-6 breathing. It's basically equates to 6 seconds in, 6 seconds out, all through the nose. The only time we should be breathing through our mouth is when we're basically at a point of exhaustion during a workout and you're still trying to push the pace, or you're doing a breathwork technique like we're about to do right now. We're trying to actually move more CO2 out. So fast forward now to the breathwork practice that we're about to do. I've taken the Wim Hof Method and taught this so many times that I've modified it in a way to basically make it as impactful as possible at the very first time. They taught us in like the whole academy, basically give people like a step, kind of like a ladder system, give people like the entry level experience and advanced and more advanced. It's like I'd rather just give you guys ultimate experience and you guys can have like basically a psychedelic experience. Who's done psychedelics before? Yeah, cool. So what'd you experience when you were on psychedelics?
Were your hands up or no?
Stepmom's hands are up.
Just check. No, that for sure. But these 3 I was not sure about.
So what'd you guys experience when you were on psychedelics?
It's been a while, but amazing.
Amazing, right?
Yeah. The world's just different sensations.
How beautiful was it?
Completely. What's that?
How beautiful was the world?
Oh, incredible.
Incredible, right?
Yeah.
So that beauty is always there, but it's up to us to witness it. So I love this saying. It goes that beauty needs a witness. So the beautiful, like the colors of the flowers, the ocean, it's all there, but we're in such a hurry to get nowhere that we ignore it. So it's up to us to actually see it and witness it. So that when you're really present, when your ego is dissolved, like when you're on psychedelics, you see that. So what's going on inside the brain when you're on psychedelics and when you're in a meditative state is the exact same thing. So the area of the brain where the mind lives, the default mode network, oxygen and blood flow is down-regulated to that area, and neural activity in other areas of the brain way up regulated. So basically, there's consciousness in like a drug form or in a capsule form if you're microdosing, whatever else. So we can breathe our way into that same state, because now when we're breathing like mad men or mad women, like we're about to be doing here, just kidding. When we're doing these deep, powerful breaths, it's more than what we should be breathing in our normal life. So now you guys are gonna feel crazy electricity like pumping through your hands and your feet. This is because the blood flow in your extremities is now gonna be constricted. So it constricts from the outside in. So this needs to stay in a nice warm blood bath. You can live without an arm. That's why when you jump into a cold lake or ice bath, you get cold really, and really cold and painful in your extremities. Not so much here, because this has to stay nice and warm. You can live without a hand. You can't live without a heart. So you'll feel your hands claw up a little bit. Totally fine. This is called tetany. It's just the blood vessels constricting, because you're blowing off all this CO2 from just laying here and breathing really, really deep. Has anyone experienced that before? No? Has anyone seen someone have a panic attack? Did you see their hands kind of go like that a little bit? And they sort of got tight?
Not that I remember, but I'm sure.
Okay.
I'm distracted.
Yeah, it's a scary thing, but they're that happens when people are in a panic attack. So nothing to worry about that. What I ask you is just to surrender to that experience and just let it be. Just know that it's totally natural and you're just fine. You're in full control with your breath. If it's too much for you, if you feel like I want to slow down a little bit, your breath is like a gas pedal. Just ease up the gas. You're just fine. I ask you to just trust me that it will guide you through an amazing experience. Trust yourself to let yourself go deep and let the ego just dissolve and surrender to the moment, to the experience. Cool?
Cool.
All right. So, who here says they've done the breathwork before? Yeah, you too. So we're gonna be doing 5 rounds. 5. You're good. Sorry, I'm trying to keep a straight face. It's funny. All right, we're gonna be doing 5 rounds of breathing. So each round will consist of about 50 breaths. You guys aren't gonna be counting. I'll be doing all the counting. You guys are just gonna be laying back, hanging out, and just breathing. All right?
Through your nose.
So I'm gonna get to that.
She's gonna get there. She's not part of our family, by the way. She's an outsider.
No, she's an outsider. We don't know this. This is a black sheep here.
Yeah.
So 5 rounds, 50 breaths. You guys aren't be counting. You guys are gonna be laying back and just listening to my guidance, not hanging on every single word, because that means you're not tuned into what you're doing. It's just kind of like, I'd say it's like a comforting like a drill sergeant. I'd say that's what I'm gonna be. If it's walking around, don't feel like I didn't hear him because he was over there saying this and I'm over here breathing. Just keep going. You're doing great. I'll make sure everyone hears the instructions I want you to hear when I want you to hear them. Yep. All right. So the first 2 rounds will be in through our nose, out through our mouth. Every round will be always out through the mouth. This way we can move more CO2 and get more of the reactions that we want in the mind and the body. Because we want, essentially, you're tricking your way into deeper states of meditation by constricting blood flow and oxygen to your brain. That's why runner's high is a thing. Because that's why you feel good when you're working out and you feel kind of reset in your mind, because oxygen and blood flow is running to those working muscles and away from your brain. So we're essentially doing that right now by, breathing out all our CO2 and constricting the blood vessels, remember, from the outside in. It constricts all to our core from our head and our arms and our legs. So you'll be able to tap into states of meditation during this practice that you thought maybe were like unattainable. Like I've had people in classes and workshops that have been meditating for 30, 40 years. And they said that the place that you were able to help take me to in this practice it took me 30 years of meditation to get there, 40 years of meditation to get there. So you guys can get there right now. You get in deep brainwave states that are, extremely deep. You'll experience that. And this is all measured by scientific studies that have been done on Wim Hof and other monks and whatnot who have done these kinds of breathing techniques. So it's pretty special. All right. So let me demonstrate here. Make sure everyone can see me here. Let me move this here. I want everyone to be able to see what it's going to look like here. So, you all see me?
Yeah.
Okay. So you guys can bend your legs or keep them straight. I'd say keep them straight so you can be even more relaxed.
just for this, have them bent for you guys. So, first round, you'll be breathing in through your nose, out through your mouth, like I had said. When you're breathing, I want you to think about you're filling, you're filling your lungs up like you're pouring a glass of water. So it's filling from the bottom up. So you're gonna pull it in nice and deep from what's called your diaphragm here. That's the belly breath that you've heard about. So breathing in through your nose. You're gonna expand this belly, fill the bottom of the lungs up. Once that's filled, you're gonna roll it up to your chest and fill your chest up. Once that pressure is built up and my lungs are 100% filled, you're just gonna let the pressure go through your mouth like so. So it shouldn't be jagged, it shouldn't be rough. It should be a nice, smooth transition. So that's how we're gonna be breathing for those 50 breaths. I'll give you guys a 10 breath countdown. I'll say 10 breaths left. I'll say 3 breaths left. So keep your eyes on me, guys. So keep your eyes on me. So I'll say 3 breaths left. On the last breath, I'll say last breath fully in. And now this time, instead of just letting the pressure go through your mouth, you're actively gonna exhale all the air out of your lungs like so. Now you're gonna hold your breath on the exhalation. So empty lungs. So no air in your lungs because you've just saturated your blood full of oxygen. You've got it to 100% saturation with oxygen now. Now you're ready to go into your breath hold and you've blown out your CO2. So if like your markers are like this, you just went like that with it. So CO2 causes us to want to breathe. So now that we've blown a lot of it out, we can hold our breath for a long time now, even much longer. So you guys will experience like holding your breath for 2-3 minutes. Pretty cool, yeah? Mm-hmm. Very important, do not ever do this practice in water. Because you can black out from this. And make sure you're not doing it when you're driving, make sure you're doing it if you're seated or laying down. Because you can black out, that's not a big deal. It just means that you basically held your breath for so long that you've overridden the mind essentially, and your nervous system just kicks in. Basically, you go black for a second, and your basically your autopilot breathing kicks in.
Yeah, Nicole blacked out last night. She knows.
I knew you were gonna say that.
That's a different kind of blackout. That's different. So, anyways, so I'm gonna make sure everyone basically can it stays on the same page as one another. So whenever you feel that initial urge to breathe, this is just like a red light on the dashboard. You don't actually need to breathe. You just spent 3-4 minutes breathing like really deeply. Like you've got plenty of oxygen in the system. You could go for much longer. So when you feel that initial urge to breathe, try to relax into that breath and just try to just like let yourself go deeper now. And then when you feel that second sensation, that real sensation to breathe, you're gonna take that deep breath in, fully in, and you're gonna hold this breath now for 20 seconds. So this is the recovery breath. Okay? So what's going on there is now that you just let all the CO2 increase, your blood vessels are nice and dilated. Now it grabs that oxygen, takes it in, and throws into your cells and alkalines your cells. And this is how you can bump your pH up to like 8 pH, and it can stay that way for a while. It's pretty cool, right? So when you're hungover, you feel real acidic and inflamed, you can lay down and do this kind of breath work and feel way better and alkaline yourself. Pretty rad, right? So first 2 rounds, the only difference between the last 3 rounds is that we're breathing all through our mouth now. So it's gonna look like so. So the way to get the same vortex of air, the same pressure that we get through our nose, is that you're gonna purse your lips like this. And the reason for that is because that activates our diaphragm. That pressurization of the air activates our diaphragm. If we're just breathing with a wide mouth, it's much more of a chest breath. It's hard to get that deep saturation, that deep, pool of the air. So same exact thing. We're gonna breathe 50 times, let it all out, hold our breath. On the recovery breath now, we're gonna do what's called a squeeze. So I'll say up to 2 minutes. I'll say everyone okay, fully in, and I'll say squeeze. And now you're gonna squeeze your legs, your core, and your arms, and you're gonna push all this oxygen-rich blood that you just brought in after holding your breath for 2 minutes, and you're pushing gently up like your spine as if you're squeezing like a tube of toothpaste, up to the back of the head. Squeeze it to the head, not to the top of the head, you're blowing your head off. It's a gentle squeeze right to the back of the head where the reptilian brain lives. This is where all our neurochemistry is produced.
This is all like a feel good neurochemicals, that sort of thing. We can gently squeeze it right to there and hold it for 20 seconds, and you're gonna get a big secretion of like dopamine, serotonin, all that good stuff, and it's gonna feel really good, like drugs. Good drugs. Yeah. That's a quote from Wim. And then we're gonna release, and we'll go into the next round. So, does anyone have any questions?
Okay. So the breathing through the mouth, the second thing that you showed us.
Yeah.
Are we doing that in the first exercise or the
So we're first 2 rounds in through your nose, out through our mouth. Last 3 rounds in through our mouth, out through our mouth. And I'll make sure I'll tell you guys. All right, guys, we're switching to the mouth now. Yeah.
And then when you count down to 1, it's going to be let the breath out and hold it.
Yes. We're always holding on to the
For as long as we can.
As long as you can. So good point. So once half the group has taken that recovery breath, I'll cue the other half to join. So
Okay.
if you breathe too early, that's okay.
Right.
Not too. It's not too early. It's at your own pace.
Right,
I'll cue everyone else to join, so we're all on the same
Mom,
page.
can I have some?
If you want to keep holding past the point of when I gave you the cue, you can do that. Just join us in the next round.
Got it.
Cool.
Okay, so at 1, you're going to take a big breath and then let it out and hold it.
Yeah. So everyone, if you want to go to the bathroom, grab a drink, go for it. I've got eye masks here. If anyone wants an eye mask, it helps with the it helps with kind of you drop in a little bit. I've got some essential oils you can rub around your head or your neck, helps you kind of go a little bit deeper. There's a variety here.
I'll take that.
This one's pretty good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Just put it at the
Yes, put it in your hand. Put it around here, kind of around your forehead. It's real nice.
Okay.
And then
Not cheese though, like soft ones.
So I don't meditate a lot, but when I did your class,
Uh huh.
I only did it like twice.
Yeah.
But